Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Because Pure Kick-Ass Wrestling is making their first stop on the KAW Reunion Tour in Jackson, Tennessee. October the 26th at the Slide and Ride Rodeo Arena at 45 Broadview Drive. Are you ready for the return of Kick-Ass Wrestling presented by PKAW Entertainment?
All right, guys, y'all seen it right there. PKAW Entertainment presents KAW Reunion Tour Show tomorrow, Thursday night, bell time, 8 p.m. Do not miss it. Jackson, Tennessee, the Slide and Ride Rodeo Arena. David Jett, we were all on here and we lost Golden. Where'd he go, man?
What happened, man? He no-show you?
Well, he was on here. We were just all chatting and he popped out. Hopefully he's watching and he'll log back in, man. Look, guys, today it's all about Memphis Championship Wrestling. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We got David Jett right here. He's one of the only guys who knows everything about it other than Terry Golden. And when Golden pops back on, we're going to get him on. But look, Jett, while we're waiting on Golden. All right, last week or last month, I left y'all with a question. Both of you guys. I said, I told Terry that from our perspective, the boys' perspective, that it seemed like there was a lot of tension between him and Jerry Lawler. And we're going to answer that question here in just a minute. We're going to give Terry a little time to come on. So, Golden, while we're waiting on Terry, why don't you just tell us what you've been up to, dude?
Oh, man, you know, I caught part of your show last night, and I want to say it was fantastic. I've got a little bit of insomnia, and I watched a couple of minutes of that and just boom, out like a light.
There you go. I knew it wasn't. Fantastic. I knew it was going to be a backhanded compliment somehow, man.
Yeah, I'm working on my Buster Johnson impression. This is Buster opening up a podcast.
Go for it.
Well, goddamn, David Jett, this Buster, man, God. All growed up. I don't know what this shit is they're doing now, man, but that's goddamn. That was it. Thank you.
Sounds just like me, man. Sounds just like me. Look, I'm gonna send Terry another link just in case that something happened with that one. So just keep talking, Jett. Do what you do best. Bury people, man. Bury everybody.
You know, bury Terry Golden for popping out of here, man.
He was in there good, and then he popped right out right as we went live. I don't know, man. Maybe he faked us out, dude.
Well, maybe the hookers showed up, and he jumped into that.
He could have,
had to answer the door.
The hookers,
so
the blow.
I went to AEW Collision Saturday night in Memphis. First wrestling show I've actually attended in probably 15, 20 years, because I haven't been to one since I worked one. The last one I was at is one I was actually working at, and I haven't been live to a show since then. And like AEW is about the only wrestling I watch. WWE kind of gets on my nerves, and so I'll watch AEW and New Japan, and that's about all I watch. So I went to this live event, and so I was with this gal that's not a wrestling fan, but she was there, you know, just going to have a good time, to have some drinks and hang out and whatever. So, you know, the crowd starts chanting stuff, and she's trying to kind of pick up on that and figure out what they're chanting so she can chant too. And, you know, she was a little gurk. So Samoa Joe comes out, and everybody starts chanting Joe. But the way wrestling fans do it, it's like a Roman gladiator coming out, and they know he's going to kill somebody. So everybody's sitting there and they're like, Joe, 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 Joe. And I look over at her, and she's like doing an aerobics routine. She's not even looking at Samoa Joe. She's over there just going, Joe, 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 Joe. Hey, Macarena. I think it's how she ended it.
So let me ask you, I seen a little clip of some pictures of you at the show, and actually, you made TV, man. I seen where you posted that you actually made TV.
For a half second behind Daniel Bryan.
You made it to the big time, man. National exposure, dude.
Yeah, because I have never been on a wrestling show before in my life. And So
Really?
quite for real, right?
Well, look, I just got a message
Yeah.
from Terry. He said he'd be right on soon. He said his computer had a glitch, which I fully understand that because my shit does it all the time. Look, Jett, while we're
Be
waiting
sure he
on
just
him,
didn't go take a dump right in the middle of them.
he could have had. He could be taking dropping a deuce right now, man. Who knows? Hey, he should have done like that video Todd did, that promo Todd did in the shitter. He should have just stayed live with us if he had to go take a shit, man.
From the bathroom, yeah.
Well, look, while we're waiting on him, you mentioned something last time, so let's just go on and get started a little bit. You said you had a awkward interaction or altercation with Jerry Lawler in the back of the Mid-South Coliseum.
Yeah, that one was an old one. I was doing a show on cable at the time called the Wrestling Report, and we had I would do interviews with wrestlers. I would come down there on Monday nights and interview a couple of their guys. We'd run them on my show that came on Friday nights. And so WCW came to town. And I just called up the WCW offices. I think it was one of the Scott brothers was running it at the time. I can't remember if it was Sandy or George. Maybe it was George Scott. I just called up CNN, WCW headquarters and go, can I speak to George Scott? And they're like, sure. He gets on the phone. And I told him what I was doing. And he said, yeah, sure, come down. So I went down there with my camera guy and did interviews with Ricky Steamboat, who was world champion at the time. He had just won it from Flair. Road Warriors, Michael Hayes, Eddie Gilbert, Terry Funk, Lex Luger, on and on and on. So I'm running some of these at the show. All right. So cut to the next time I'm at the Coliseum on a Monday night. So in the kind of the backstage waiting area, not quite in the dressing room, but it's still backstage.
Right.
I see Chris Frazier walk by. And you remember Chris Frazier?
Right. Yes.
Flyboy's son.
Right.
Basically, just did a lot of squash matches on television. That was about it. He was a guy, like, he didn't even look like he was going to fight when he'd start a match. Like, his arms would just be down by his side, and he'd just walk into the guy, like, hit me.
Look, man, I had several matches with Chris Frazier early on, dude. Several, dude.
I'm sorry. So apparently he was there at WCW too, hanging around backstage, and they couldn't find like the lighting grid for the show that the Coliseum had, and Chris Frazier told them where to go to get it or something like that. So I'm backstage, and Lawler comes walking up to Chris Frazier and just starts dogging him out. And he's like, were you here at WCW show? He's like, well, and you're helping them out. That's hurting us. You just need to get the hell out of here and don't ever come back and get out. You're just an idiot. I remember this line specifically. He looked at him and he said, you're too stupid to even fucking breathe.
Damn.
And Chris Frazier put his head down and just slunk out the back door. And of course, my immediate thought was, I'll be goddamned if somebody's going to talk to me like that.
Right.
Even somebody can kick my ass. It's like, that ain't flying. So cut to a little bit later, I'm in one of the dressing room areas, and Lawler's in there, and Dutch Mantel, and Randy West, the camera guy. So Lawler says, well, I saw those WCW interviews you did, and, I don't think you should do stuff with us anymore because I don't think you're really helping us out. And, matter of fact, I'd never even seen your show. The first night we started doing stuff together, Lawler came up to me in the dressing room. He's like, oh, man, I saw the show last night. That was really good. And you put the interview segment in there. And he obviously had seen the show.
Right.
Right. So now he's standing there saying, well, I had, honestly, I've never even seen the show. And I said, why would you stand there and say that when you know you're lying to the both of us? That's the point Dutch Mantel and Randy West got up and walked out of the room.
No,
I guess they thought, okay, we're not going to be witnesses to whatever Lawler's about to do to Jett. And then he just kept saying bullshit. And I just kept saying, man, you're so full of bullshit. I was getting hot too. I just kind of see white and I didn't give a shit. And so he actually walked out of the dressing room and I followed him down the hallway going, man, I have never heard so much bullshit. When you're through with this bullshit, give me a call if you want to do something. I'm just like going off on him. And I left because I wasn't going to be Chris Frazier. Now, the back end of the story is we did the wrestling report. We taped it on Thursday nights, right? But it aired on Friday nights at 7 o'clock, and I acted like it was live, but we had actually pre-taped it the night before every week. So in the next couple of weeks, Lawler does this injury angle here in town, and so he's not wrestling in Memphis or this area, but this is for the internet, so you didn't see what was happening in other places. And so he's wrestling up in New Jersey on a card, and I knew about it. And so on the show we taped, at the top of the show, I said, hey, you know, Jerry Lawler's injured, but I see he's wrestling on some card up in New Jersey, and I happen to have a buddy who lives in Jersey, and he's going to the show. So we got him on the phone, and we're going to check in with him and see if Lawler wrestles, because he says he's injured, not wrestling.
Right.
But all of a sudden he's wrestling here. What's going on? We're taping it in night 4. I've got no clue what's going on that night, right? I just knew he was going to wrestle, but we're acting like it was. And by the end of the show, I'm like, oh, well, Lawler's match hadn't come up, so we don't know for sure if he I just kept teasing that I was going to expose that he wrestled up there while he was injured down here, right?
How did that go over?
The following Monday, I get a phone call at work. Lawler had my work number, and he goes, hey, Jett, this is Jerry Lawler. You know, I was thinking maybe you should come back and do some stuff with us, because, you know, the thing is, if I'm going to be a pain in the ass, he'd rather have me
on his side.
Right. And not being a big pain in the ass and fucking up their shit, right?
Right.
So he was like, why don't you come on back down here and do some stuff? And I was like, yeah, that's right. And as soon as I got off the phone, my first thought was, you been worked, bitch.
So let's fast forward.
It's so easy to work wrestlers.
Oh God, dude.
You'd think it'd be the opposite, but it's so easy to work wrestlers.
Oh hell no, we gullible as hell, man. We believe any fucking thing. You
Yeah.
say it, we believe it. It don't fucking matter what it is, man, at all. So look, we're still waiting on Terry. He tried to log in, but he's still some issues.
Well, if you want me to, I'll tell 2 what I thought were funny Jerry Lawler stories.
Go for it.
We're waiting on Golden. So this one happened at the Mid-South Coliseum. I was there doing some announcing, and they had this new wrestler they were debuting. He was a rapper, and kind of like PN News in WCW and whatever, but it was one of the early rapping wrestlers. He only lasted in Memphis about a month, and I can't even remember his name. But Jerry was like so like pumped up about this guy debuting, because there was always a large African-American crowd at the
Right.
Coliseum, and you know, so he goes, oh, we got this guy, he's going to rap. He's going to be like the biggest thing ever. So we're in the back of the Coliseum, and we're looking through they had these wooden partitions, but they had a little space in between them, so you kind of peek through and you could see out to the ring without the fans seeing you. So we're standing there, and Lawler's like, hey, Jett, come here, check this out. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. Check this out, man. You're going to love this. So back in the day, they didn't play music off computers. It was like off cassette tapes, and the sound system for the Coliseum was way up high. So there's like no communication. You just give them, a list and some cassettes. So when it was time for this rapper to go out, all of a sudden I hear, pour some sugar on me. And that's what they're playing. Pour some sugar on me. And of course, I immediately just lose it. And I'm dying laughing. And Lawler is getting so steamed. It was like a cartoon, where you see like the steam coming out of their ears and off their heads. He had that face on. And I turned to him and I said, oh man, this is fantastic. Def Leppard is my favorite rap group. And,
oh no.
Oh man. And he had that Lawler face on. Which, if you've ever seen him aggravated on TV, like in an angle or in a work where he looks like he's disgusted with the other person, that's a real expression he has.
Face.
He draws. Right. Yeah. And the other one was one night at the Daisy with MCW. He was wrestling William Regal, and Regal told us this story later on. And I know exactly what he meant by this, but the way it was phrased just made me laugh. So they're in the back, Regal and Lawler, and they're going over their match. And at one point, Lawler says to Regal, he goes, hey, Are there some things you can show me where it looks like I know how to wrestle? I thought it was funny.
That's hilarious, man. Regal's one of my favorite dudes, man. Look, he's one of the guys. Sometimes you meet these stars, and sometimes, man, the minute you meet them, you realize that they ain't worth a fuck, man. But Regal's the exact opposite, man. After meeting Regal, my respect and everything growed for him tremendously, dude. He always was cool with me and Ron, treated us good, talked to us before the shows.
There was a period of time there where I rode to the shows with Regal. We like traveled together.
Oh God!
For a while.
Is he cutting promos the whole fucking ride?
No, he actually one ride. He was real excited because he had gone to Best Buy and he had bought AC/DC's first 5 albums on CD, and he was pumped because that's what we were going to listen to. But a lot of the other trips, we were listening to a lot of British comedy teams. He had like tapes of a lot of the old Brit. There was one, Dudley Moore and Peter Cook. They had an act called, what was Derek and Clive. Just hilarious stuff. And he would play that, and we just laugh our asses off on the way to the town.
Damn,
fucking No Show Golden finally back. Gee.
Dude, look, I got this laptop that I never use, right? So I'm like, man, I'm not staying at work to do this deal tonight because I'm exhausted and I'm going home. So I brought this laptop home. I plug it up. It says it hasn't been used since 2022. All right. We're talking like when you're sitting there counting down. We're about to go in, and it popped up and said you got the updates to do. So
oh yeah, I was about to say you got updates. Yeah.
My wife ran up here with another computer, and I'm illiterate, so I had to start all over. Sorry, guys. Plus, you said there was no intro, and I was pissed about that. So,
prima donnas, man.
That's it. Sorry about that, guys.
Well,
what did I miss?
All my Jerry Lawler stories.
Yeah, that's all you miss, man. Golden and the way he pumped Lawler out in the back of the Coliseum, pretty much, man. Glad you could join us now, Terry. Everybody, y'all know this guy, owner, founder of KAW, Memphis Championship Wrestling. All right, Terry, since you're here finally, look, last time you guys were here, we ended on a question. But before we get to that question, and let's get that answered, I want to rewind just a tad. And let's go back to the very end of KAW. All right, KAW is starting to hit on all cylinders. We're starting to draw everywhere we go. The crew's working together better than they ever had. Everything's starting to fall right into place. And then you get this phone call about a meeting. So let's start there. Who actually called you about this meeting?
It was Jerry. You know, Jerry had the falling out with Randy over at Power Pro, and they had been on the outs for a little while. And we kind of figured it was coming. And our first impression was we really wanted to get him on KAW. We really wanted to get the King on KAW because I think that would have been, just the final straw. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The final victory. Because, we had pretty much pick and choice of anybody. There was one point in time where any and everybody was calling wanting to be on KAW, especially the Daisy shows. We had all their top guys. We had all the top guys that came through Memphis in that era, right. From Jamie and Wolfie to Dutch to just anybody. But that would have been the final one, having him and Bill on the same show. Would have been cool, I think. Would have been fun. I think we could have done some really fun stuff if he would have done it. I'm not sure he would have done it. But, it was really more of a deal where he called and wanted to talk, and I said I would listen. So we listened, and, that's kind of where it went.
Well, let me ask you something. How did that first – I know y'all said when you finally went and met, y'all went to the – donut place and ate they wanted to go eat the donuts right off the wax paper or whatever.
Yeah.
How did that first of all, before this, now I know you had worked on Channel 5 some here and there, time or two. Before this, how was your relationship with Jerry Lawler? Or did you even have one?
Well, it was I would say it was cordial. I mean, we're obviously we'd never been best friends. But I mean, we had a working relationship, as anybody else, I guess, that is in this business has worked on Channel 5 or whatever. But I mean, we had a working relationship. The deal when I went to work with, if you remember, there was a stint there where they wanted to bring me in there and do like an Oscar gimmick deal, like the Oscar award-winning deal, because Mike Samples was doing something. They wanted to put me and Mike together, and I was going to be the Oscar-winning whatever, and he was something else. Kind of a spin-off of the Slammy deal. Funny thing about that is Jerry Jarrett's the one who put me on the show. And I found out I was on the show because somebody called me and said they watched television, and they advertised me on the show.
Damn.
To go to the show at television. I didn't go to television because I didn't know. I didn't even think. So I didn't get a call before anything. And me and Dale Spellbinder were good friends, so we went together. And this is when they were running down at that building. What was it called? It wasn't the Mid-South, and it was kind of that. What was it?
The big one?
No, yeah, yeah.
The Pipkin building, maybe?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it was the big one they called it. Yeah,
it was called the big one, the place they were running at the very end. So
I went and did the show. And that's when Randy pretty much owned the business, I think. So I ran the show, or I worked the show. Me and Mike, I've known Mike Samples for a long time, so we were good. We worked against Flash and somebody else, which me and Flash have worked together a million times. So everything was great. After the show, I left. Shit, I never heard anything else. I never called them. They never called me. It was kind of a one and done.
Right.
If I remember right, we went over in the match. But if they didn't have the respect to kind of call and kind of anything, I'm like, I'm not going to call you.
Really?
It was just really unprofessional, really kind of, and I don't know, maybe Jerry or Jarrett called them and said, hey, put this kid on the show or do whatever. And they did it because he wanted to. Maybe they didn't want me there. I don't know, whatever. But
hey, man, don't get hot, man.
Oh, God. Anyway, that's and then I've worked on 5 like 2 other times before that, and it seemed like every time I worked on 5, I was in a match with Lawler, and I've never lost.
Damn.
That we had against Lawler, we actually won both. They were both by DQ, but we still won the matches. That's all that matters in the record books. But anyway, I mean, it was just kind of strange and weird. But like the conversation when Jerry called, he wanted me to come over to his house. The first time I went over once and we chatted and talked about what we could do or which way it could go, what he would, want us to do or what suggestions he had for us to change. And that's when the KAW being a little bit risque and a little bit this and that. Ultimately, it was laid out to where that, hey, if you'll make a few concessions and change a few things up, you're going to get the developmental deal from New York.
So they came to you from the get-go pretty much with intentions of getting you a developmental deal, helping you get.
Yeah, because if you remember, the very first MCW show we had New York guys on it.
Right.
The very first one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we didn't have a contract at that point, but I knew if they were moving people to Memphis, we were going to. So I'm not going to move them to Memphis and put them to work and tell them that I'm their boss if they weren't going to give us a deal.
Right.
It started out to be a pretty shitty deal, but I mean, it ended up being better than it started. So that's kind of how I started. When JR came down, this is something I've never told. All right. I've probably told Jett. Jett knows everything. He probably knows more than I know. But this is what the original plan was. It was me, Jerry, JR, and Bert Prentice. We all met at his house. This is when Bert was doing MCW in Nashville.
Okay.
The original plan was for me to do the developmental deal in Memphis, Bert do a developmental deal in Nashville, and Danny Davis and Cornette do the deal in Louisville. All 3 were to work together was the plan, and swap all that talent and rebuild that old loop.
Yes.
Where they'd be Memphis, Nashville, Louisville spot shows.
Right.
Yeah, it would have worked out fine because Cornette is super easy to get along with.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it would have been interesting anyway, to say the least. But I mean, what happened on that deal was last minute, everything was in place to do that, and Bert went WCW. Okay. He went with WCW. I don't know why. He felt like he had better connections at WCW, and that Bert and I were great friends. I've known Bert for a long time. God bless him. But he did what he wanted to do, and I respected that, and I understood, his reasons for doing it, and that kind of changed the whole scope. That way, at that point, we were Memphis, and Louisville was Louisville, which is the infamous Ohio Valley,
right.
And that's how it pretty much started.
Well, look, speaking of Bert, was Ozark Mountain your first TV experience whatsoever? Because I know
I do a little bit of stuff outside of the porn stuff.
We keep
I did a little bit of stuff in Illinois. When I first broke in and started, I worked with Spike Huber a lot, which was Dick the Bruiser's son-in-law, and we would go up north a lot, and I would do some television and stuff up there. But yeah, after that, when I came, because I worked up in Illinois and stuff for probably a year or so before I ever did anything in the Mid-South, and I lived here. So, but that's where Spike was from. That's where he did everything, and he didn't want to be in the wrestling business. He pretty much did it for me because we were good friends. And we did that together. We did Deep South together, I think it was. And me and Bull did some Deep South together, and then we went to Texas and did some stuff out there, Ozark Mountain, and then Bert shows flew on. I went to Nashville for Bert for a while and did the MCW and worked up there and carried his belt for me for a little bit. That's about it.
Well, look, so we're transitioning from KAW to Memphis Championship Wrestling. You've had this meeting with Lawler. You've met with Lawler and JR. Kind of got an idea of what you expect, what they expect. Okay, let's fast forward now to where we left off. I asked you, I told you, I said, from the boys' perspective, our perspective, it felt like and seemed like there was a pretty high amount of tension between you and Lawler. So up until that point, you had kind of, just like I had, you'd kind of just worked for Lawler or worked on some of his shows. Now he's basically working for you, or y'all are working together. So was that tension? Was it as palatable as we felt like it was? How was it to work with Jerry Lawler when basically you're his boss?
Now's the time for everybody to lawyer up.
I don't know. Jett, how do you think it went?
I was telling Jerry Lawler stories earlier, just random funny stuff, but I think you ought to start. All right, look. Yeah, you two didn't get along at all.
Yeah,
and Lawler hated KAW and anything that reminded anybody of KAW, he was not a fan of. I'm sure he just wanted it to be, his comic book monster promotion, which thankfully it wasn't. But
yeah, man, it was a weird time for Jerry, I think, to be honest with you. Yeah, if you want to talk about tension, there was always tension. He was never happy. But I don't know that we really conceded on a whole lot.
Right.
I don't know that. If I'm wrong, Jett, remind me because I forget a lot. But I don't think we varied from what we wanted to do.
He really, honestly, at a point, just wanted to come in and have his match, and that's it. He didn't want to have the title. He didn't want to, and it got to a point. I think we put the title on him because we were doing a show at the Mall of Memphis on the ice skating rink, and R-Truth was the champion at the time. He was K-Quick when he was here, but R-Truth, Ron Killings. But we thought it's like, this is a free show in the mall with all these wrestling fans. Let's have Jerry Lawler win in front of them and make it kind of a happy thing. And he really was reluctant to do that. He's like, oh, shit, I don't want the title. And we were kind of like, yeah, just shut up and win the match. But he really just kind of wanted to do his
He just wanted to be on TV. He just wanted to be on TV in Memphis. Yeah. That's really been his thing. I believe that's all he really cared about, was he wanted to be on TV, and he kind of wanted, obviously he didn't want to, look like a fool. He wanted to plug his little sponsors that he had with the Dodge store, which worked out for me because I got a free car too.
Hey, what? Whoa.
You don't remember that, Jett?
Where's your car?
Well, what I remember is I got no fucking car, not even a goddamn Ford Escape or nothing.
You're right.
Nothing.
But I did get a free car from the Dodge dealership. Like every time I got 3,000 or 4,000 miles, I just took it back and got another one.
Well, now I'm getting hot.
I'm sorry, Jett. How are you?
Look at
we got
face.
heat.
Just face fucking red as hell.
We got fucking heat now.
But yeah, you're right. In the beginning, I don't think he knew exactly how we were going to be towards him, or I was going to be towards him. I don't think he was as comfortable as he always has been. So you're right. He didn't I think he tried to play it off as if he was okay working for somebody else. But in Memphis, for Jerry Lawler to be working for somebody else had to be an awkward state for him. And I understand that. I always understood that. I'm not an idiot. We didn't pull the things we pulled off by being a couple of dumbasses. But the longer it went, the more, the sourer it got. It got worse and worse and worse until it finally imploded. And, I want to say I won just because I'm the one here saying it. I'm sure he'd say that he won because he was ultimately the deal that ruined the whole deal.
He caused a fair amount of problems backstage with extracurricular activities, I guess is.
Well, they weren't really backstage now, were they?
Nah, well, no, they were. No, but I'm just
all right now.
saying.
Y'all on the show. The world wants to know. Y'all talking in code now. Spit it out.
What's the question? You're asking the questions. I'll answer the question.
What are these extracurricular activities that Lawler either was taking part in or had issue with?
Terry Golden?
He likes to stand in the closet. He's a watcher. Does everybody follow me?
Look,
everybody, I have 2 dogs, right? He had a cat. He's a cat guy. Okay?
Yeah.
We like cats. I like dogs. He liked to stand in the closet and watch his cat get pounded. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you don't want to know what I'm talking about.
Well, look,
so
Buster,
he would have some of the boys come by and pound his cat while he sits in the closet and watches.
So he wonders why it ended the way he did, huh?
Well,
here, Buster doesn't have a huge budget. On some shows they have like animated reenactments of stuff, like at a court trial or something. And Buster doesn't have the budget for that. So I'll jump in and do the reenactment on a low budget for you here. So let me see if we can see this.
Bust, I used to deal with this for hours.
I think we're gonna bring Jett back, and he's gonna be he's gonna do all the animations from.
He can do all the animations.
Yeah.
Right. Well, look.
We're talking the heart and gold of the Attitude Era. Now think about that, guys.
Right.
We're talking about the hottest time in wrestling. We're a blip on the radar, but we're talking Austin and Rock. We're talking Triple H, Undertaker, main events at WrestleMania. We're talking Kurt Angle at the top of the game. I mean, we're talking the hottest. You go back and look at a tape of a WWE show from 99 and 2000. Insane. Right. That it was and probably will be the hottest time to ever have been involved. So, I mean, for that, I'm grateful. It was amazing to be able to go to all those shows and be a part of WrestleMania, go to WrestleMania and do all that cool stuff. But, I mean, at the end of the day, when you sit down and you think about it, it wasn't worth it. That's the goal that we all wanted. Anybody who's ever put on a pair of boots is, if they don't tell you the truth, if they want to go to work in New York, then why do it? Right? I mean, nobody says, hey, man, I just want to, I want to work independence all my life. And if they tell you that, they're full of crap. I do, that's one thing that I do think that has evolved that I appreciate. Back in our days, a lot of people called it outlaw wrestling, which I thought, I appreciate the name of calling what we would call outlaw shows independents, because that's really what they are. Right. Just because you're not on a major television show, but our shows, even KAW shows, they were on like 365 stations nationwide. A lot of people don't know that either. I mean, they were on that markets. They were on a lot of all the way from New York to California. I mean, we had a deal with Bill Barron in syndication where we send in the tapes every week, especially the MCW stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of that footage that got seen in a lot of areas that a lot of the boys don't even know about. So, I mean, we thought that would be good for guys like you and guys that wanted, to work and get seen, and it was, but it wasn't. So,
well, let me ask you this. I don't know if y'all were on the inside, but one of the conspiracy theories that's been around pretty much since the day you got the developmental deal is that Jerry Lawler did that to basically put KAW and you out of business. Is there do you think there's any validity to any of that?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, because that's kind of what we did. Go ahead.
I think it was just because he was so mad at Randy Hales, he was going to do anything he could to get out of that deal, but still have his deal kind of thing. Still be on TV. I think it was more against. I think it was more against Randy Hales than it was against KAW.
Yeah, because I heard the rumblings that I had people contact me and said, Lawler mentioned y'all. Lawler's got, he's thinking about what it'd be like to show up on y'all's TV. How bad it would hurt Randy. And we got those, little peaks here and there. But yeah, I agree with Jett. I mean, I think that that was part of the deal. Hey, he could do two things at once. But I think overall it was more him wanting to sabotage Randy than it was to kill us off.
Okay, let me ask you this then. This is highly debated ever since it happened. The Kevin Christian incident, shoot or work? I have my own opinion. Shoot or work?
What is yours?
I think it was a work.
It was a work. It was a work. It was a stiff work, but it was a work.
Yeah,
no, it was all shoot.
Really?
I give Tasha all the credit. It was all shoot because we sent Kevin out to we didn't even. Here's the deal: we didn't know what we were going to do with Kevin. I just told him. We said, shit, just go out there and cut a promo. We don't care. If it sucked, we just edit it out. Right? It didn't matter. He would have never been there. But we were actually in the back, and I kind of remember this a little bit because it was entertaining. And I hate Kevin Lawler. And he knows it. I mean, I have zero respect for Kevin Lawler. He should have been the one, if you know what I'm saying. But, I said to some of the boys, you want to go? Y'all want to go out there? Whatever you want to do, go. And Tasha was the one that jumped up and said, hey, I'll go. And I'm like, all right, this might be entertaining. And then I think it was Biddy and them jumped in a little bit. But, yeah, it was all shoot because, I think she would have worked, but I think he stiffed her pretty good right out the gate. And that just kind of escalated it. But, yeah, I don't think it was any work to it.
There it is, y'all. That's been a fucking conspiracy theory for fucking since it happened, pretty much. Dude.
And kudos to Tasha. She was a pain in the ass, but I love her to death because she, you know what? She did a lot of good shit for us. She did a lot of good shit.
Hey, like I said, she was at her most miserable during a lot of that time. Yeah. But Tasha's always one to go out there and fucking put it on the line. And
I don't know. I haven't seen or heard or anything from Tasha, God, in 156 years, but I have no idea where she is. I hope she's good, man. I mean, but I don't know. I truly appreciate everything she did for us.
Okay, look, before we get into MCW heavily, there's another conspiracy theory that went around. It's not really a conspiracy theory. It's more of a rumor that went around back when WCW went up for sale. There was a rumor circulating that if the WWE did purchase it and they were going to leave it open and run it as a company, that you were one of the guys that were maybe pegged for that job. Is that true or false?
What do you think, Jett?
I have a sliced idea. I know at the time when they started picking up WCW guys that a lot of the guys at MCW were like, oh, well, they're taking our spots. We're never going to get there because they're bringing all these guys in. But the original plan was WWE was going to run WCW as kind of a separate group. And so there may have been room for some of the MCW guys to go up to either WWE or WCW maybe earlier than before because of them running as two groups. But then there was that night where they had Booker T wrestle Buff Bagwell and on a WWE, like on a Monday Night Raw. And the match sucked so hard that based on that, Vince McMahon killed off the idea of WCW being its own thing.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I remember the match. It was fucking awful, but God dog.
Well, and the crowd was just totally turned on it. I mean, the crowd just completely just turned on them, and I felt bad for them because whether you like him or don't like him, Bagwell was over.
Right.
Okay, and so was Booker T. And I just think that was just crap booking to put two WCW guys in the ring in a WWE ring as a match, and just what sense would that make? That would be like us bringing, two guys from Power Pro over and putting them in a ring at the Daisy. Right. God bless them. They would have got hammered, and they go out there and have a wrestling match. No matter who it is, how good they are, no disrespect to anybody that worked for them, but they would have just got hammered because our crowd just. That was just horrible. Why would you do that? But the answer to your story is somewhat. That there was some conversations with Bruce, and that was going to be part of the deal because at the time, there at the end, more so, I was going to a lot of the Raw shows, and we would have talks about some of that stuff. But you're right, Jett nailed it. Booker T and Bagwell changed the history of the wrestling business more than they ever know because it nixed the entire one match changed the whole plan.
Okay, now when you
it would have been even faster if it had been a Hellraiser match.
There you go.
This would have nixed the.
This would have nixed the better.
Vince would have nixed the idea during the introductions.
Hey, making his way to the ring. Yeah. Never mind. Cancel that.
Yeah, cancel. Next.
They'd have put me out in a dark match and they'd have shut the whole Raw and every fucking thing down. Vince would be like, fuck it, we're done. It's over, man. So
hey, there's Stoney McGraw. I love Stoney.
Yeah.
Stoney was one of my favorites.
So
got a pencil?
Speaking of killing town,
I actually seen that video, man, on Facebook. I seen some of the.
You remember that now? How funny was he, cool. Man? I loved him.
Fucking killer shit, dude.
Jett, that's a lot of Jett Daniels ago for you.
I mean, where do you see it?
It's out on Facebook, man. Somebody shared it couple of weeks after our last show, I started seeing a few MCW.
Look, there's tons of tape. I have about 300 of these.
All
there
right.
you go. That's some master copies too, man.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have a ton of any of that. I got a little bit somewhere in a box. VHS.
You want this? Yeah, you come get it.
I don't want it. I want
somebody
else to take it.
I'm going on the record right now to let you know. I've made a promise to 2 people. I've told my buddy here, Bruster, that he's going to get all the masters from KAW. And that's the plan. I'm going to get them. They're actually all stacked up behind me back here. We sold our house. We're moving in January, so it's going to be before that. He's getting all the KAW stuff. I was in negotiations with New York before COVID hit about buying all the MCW stuff. But since COVID hit, they're not really doing a whole lot of stuff at all.
Right.
So, and their little show where they go out and find treasures. The guy, whatever his name is, Ben, that's who I was dealing with. I think he's covered up with that. But I think I'm going to take all the MCW footage and give it to Brian Asbury, who does Developmentally Speaking, and he's going to use it the same way Buster's going to use it and get it out there. Because there is a lot of footage back here, man, that really needs to be seen, really needs to be on YouTube and stuff like that. A lot of guys, a lot of good memories. So that's what we're going to do.
We were talking about the KAW stuff last night, and that's one thing I brought up. Most of the KAW I got was recorded straight off of TV. And like I said last night to the guys, back then, UPN was hit and fucking miss. One week it's ought to be clear. The next 2 months, it could be staticky as hell. Who knows? So some of the footage I got is not the greatest. And that's what I told them last night. I told them that me and you'd had the conversation, that you told me that you were going to give me the KAW stuff. And I said, here's the thing, though. I'm thinking I'm going to get Terry's got the master copies where all the footage should be clean. And
the majority of them are all master tapes, or they're master tapes that were dumped off to a disc. So they're pretty good qualities. And some of it, you may randomly find one of Jett's. He had to do a lot of research on Jasmine St. Clair before she came in.
I bet he did.
We're in like a van. Sometimes, the boys and whoever would travel and
we were in a Suburban when no one's about to tell.
So, but sometimes Terry would have 6, 7, 8 people in a van, SUV, whatever. Yeah. So I remember being on one with Blue Meanie and Jasmine. I don't know, me and Terry and 3 or 4 other people, and I forgot who it was.
It was Regal. You talking about her feet?
I don't think it was Regal. No. I'm talking about that. Somebody started talking about a relationship problem they had. And Jasmine St. Clair starts giving this person relationship advice. I know she has a job. And I know you can separate a job from your personal life. But all I was thinking about when she was telling this guy how to keep a girl, all I'm thinking is, you just had 37 dicks in a row in your mouth. Why would anybody listen to any fucking thing you were said about a relationship?
Yeah, she was like the record holder there for a while at 300, wasn't she?
Right. I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with her work. So, look.
Yeah.
I hope my kids aren't listening to this, but look, I'll never forget the first time she came to town.
Why would you have your kids watch a show I'm on?
I don't know. My wife does that shit. She goes, "Lady, I gotta watch." Anyway, I'll never. My ex-wife at the time, we lived in Memphis, and Jasmine came into town, and I'll never forget. She came in. She came to my house. We met. We talked. Whatever. She left. And Michelle says, "Oh my God, we got to do something." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "We got to clean the couch."
We got to sanitize.
That was fun fact. So anyway,
look, we're transitioned over into Memphis Championship Wrestling. since we're talking about the Blue Meanie and Jasmine St. Clair, let's talk about the first wave of guys that were sent in. Now, if I remember right, it was Mr. Hughes, it was the Mean Street Posse, Reckless Youth, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, K Crush, which is R-Truth now. Shit, was that it, or am I missing a few of these guys?
I think that was
Reckless
the
Youth.
first
Did you
wave.
say Reckless?
Yeah,
Reckless, yeah.
Youth. Yeah, Tom
Yeah.
Howard.
And was Bradley in the beginning?
No, he came a little later. Bradley came a little later. So did all of the Shawn Michaels students came a little later. It was Brian Danielson and Spanky.
Mascade.
And Shooter Schultz came kind of in a later wave.
Yeah, they came, I guess they'd have been the second wave of people they sent in because, all right, they sent all these guys in. What did you think of their, obviously, Reckless Youth, hell of a fucking talent, man. He'd already made a pretty good name for himself on the independents up north. K Crush, I'd never heard of him, but all you had to do was see him once. You knew this dude's fucking talented, man. We all know the Blue Meanie. You knew what to expect out of Meanie, but when they sent that first group of guys in, were y'all satisfied with them, happy with them, or was it a little bit disappointing in a few of them? Because obviously, Neidhart, when he first got here, was fucking hard to work with, or would not hardly work. So
yeah, he didn't want to do anything. He was just going to coast the whole time he was here. I think it was actually I think he was sent here, I want to say kind of a demotion in a way. Like they were, because of the whole Owen Hart situation, they didn't want to release anybody they thought might get in on suing them.
Right.
So they try to find him something to do, and that's when Neidhart got sent here. And he did not give shit one about being down here, helping any of the boys, doing anything. I mean, like he was super nice to me, and I was entertained by him. And I shared a few drinks with him after shows at the casinos, and he was always entertaining. But as a
Jack Daniels,
Jack, yeah, a little bit, just a little bit,
a little bitty shot,
just a little bit of Jack Daniels, and then it'd be like about this big, and about 10 of them in a row. And it'd be in Memphis. I'm going down to the Fox and Hound Doggy. The Fox and Hound.
What he called it. The Fox and Hound out on Germantown Road.
And then going back to my,
I used to have to go have dinner with him. Like we would have dinner like maybe once every other week and try to, that was his job. He was supposed to be the trainer.
Right.
Well, he could have trained people how to go out in front of your extended stay hotel and hit golf balls into the street, into traffic.
Did I tell that story last time? I think I did, didn't I?
No. You didn't talk about Neidhart.
So Neidhart, this is before Germantown Road's really like booming. Germantown Road, you can't do anything there now, but they had this was the first extended stay hotel they had over on Germantown Road, like across from where Wolf Chase and stuff is now. I don't think Wolf Chase was even there, was it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Anyway, the manager called from this hotel, called us. And I got on the phone, called them back. I can't remember exactly how it was, but they said that are you in charge or do you own a Jim Neidhart?
Do you own a Jim Neidhart? Like he was a car?
He says that you're in charge of him.
Your Jim Neidhart is parked in the handicap spot.
And I said, well, after I figured out what they were talking about or who they were talking about, I thought it might have been a prank, but it wasn't. And they said, well, could you come over here? And I said, what's going on? And the manager of the hotel called and says, we have a large individual by the name of Jim Neidhart out front hitting golf balls over Germantown Road. Just loosely hitting golf balls down Germantown Road. Did not give a shit where they landed, where they went, how they flew. So I called him, and we met at the Fox and Hound Doggy, that he would call it. And we were talking and stuff. And I said, man, we can't can't be hitting golf balls down the road. You'll get kicked out of the hotel. You know, and he'd just sit there and he'd keep doing this with that beard. You know how he would pull the beard? He was like, well, there was no cars coming.
Damn.
And he didn't care. I mean, yeah, Jett's right. He didn't know why he was here. He knew that he was still getting his check. And he was getting guaranteed money.
Right.
But yeah, he didn't care. I mean, great guy, but I've never seen him madder than the night we were somewhere in Arkansas, and the finish was somebody was going to come out and throw, I think it was it Crush or Reckless Youth, a gimmick, and we snuck down the stairs and threw him a rubber chicken, and Jim took the bump to a rubber chicken and got pinned. I've never seen him so mad in my life.
Well, I'll say this from the boys' perspective, or at least I think he worked fine with the WWE guys or WWF guys, but for the boys down here, man, he was fucking hard to work with in the ring. He did not want to sell. He didn't really want to do anything. He didn't want to bump.
He didn't want to bump. He didn't want to do nothing. I don't think it was just anybody else. I think it was that was the census with anybody, you know, because he might have been a little easier with the guys that were under contract, but it wasn't enough to matter. So.
Well, he really wasn't still for nothing, but he just didn't want to work with us.
Yeah, no, he didn't want to work at all. And I mean, he didn't have God, I hate to say anything bad, but I mean, he didn't have a high level match anytime he was here.
Right.
He didn't want to be here. I mean, I think it's entertaining now thinking back that, you know, he would call home and I'd sit there and we would chat with his daughter who's, God, she's been in New York now for how many years? For
20,
like 100,
maybe.
16.
Yeah, I mean,
at least.
You know, what do you do with Jim Neidhart?
Right. Well, look, we talked about Neidhart. Let's talk about Reckless Youth. What's y'all's thoughts about Reckless Youth?
I think Tom is a great guy, a great talent. I think his biggest issue always was nobody ever got what Reckless Youth was, and nobody ever spent any time trying to create something that would fit him.
Right.
As far as talent, man, I mean, I think they missed. I think they missed him. I think somebody could have found something for him to do in that era of all the stuff that was going on with the silly gimmick stuff. And, you know, I just think that they could have done something with him. But, I mean, he should have been a star, especially when they started kicking off that cruiserweight division. I mean, he could work with anybody or anything. Right. But that's my opinion. And we probably, you know, me and Jett, I'm sure Jett remembers this because we would sit in the office and we'd have to send reports in every week on guys, what they're developing and how they were developing and what we thought. And hell, I don't know if they ever got read, but it just got redundant because it just seemed like nobody ever listened to anything. So,
well, let's talk about that. Okay. Well, did
right,
anything?
Hold on. Before you move on to something else, I'm telling a Reckless Youth story.
Get it.
So there's a bar, and I forgot what the name of it was at the time. It was over on Winchester Road. It was like a country bar. It was like Shooters or Denim and Diamonds or Cowboys and
Spurs. Was it Spurs?
Whatever the fuck it was. I don't know. It was called 100 different things, but it was kind of the hot place to go. So some nights when the boys had a night off or something, we'd go up there. So I'm up there. I think I got there first. Jim Neidhart got there second. Jim Neidhart spots me, comes over, of course, gets a little bit of Jack Daniels, which means by the end of the night, 3 gallons. And they had a mechanical bull in there. And I'm talking him into getting on the mechanical bull because I want to see fucking Jim Neidhart on a mechanical bull. I thought that would have been the funniest thing ever, right? I was this close to getting him on. And then the rest of the boys walked in the door, and he saw that, and he wouldn't go get on it in front of the boys. So anyway, we're all there, and Ron Killings, R-Truth, is there. He puts in fake gold teeth and kind of does a character like on the old Martin show, the old dude at the club. And he would talk to women that would pass by and go, "Hey, baby, what's going on? Can we get together? Oh, I love you." And he would never break character. And all the women were just like, "Ah, get away from me." So anyway, we're all there. We're all drinking. And I think Tom Howard, Reckless Youth, kind of wasn't real happy at the time. And I think maybe he wasn't wrestling enough, or sometimes you give these guys free time and they don't fucking know what to do with it, because wrestling's all they care about. It's not like a lot of them outside of Bryan Danielson's going to just sit around and read a book. So Tom is just drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking, and I thought he was getting a little, having a little bit too much, and he's sitting on one of those high tables with the bar stool kind of things. And I kind of walk over there, and he does that thing like a drunk girl does when she's trying to get your attention. He's like, "Hey, David. Hey, David. Hey, David. Hey, hey, David. Hey, David. And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I like boobies." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm getting you a water. I'll be right back."
You're done. It's over for you, man.
You're done. Yeah, I'm getting you a water, man.
Well, look, let's since we've mentioned R-Truth several times, or K-Crush, let's talk about K-Crush, man. What was your first thoughts when he got down here? Both of you guys.
No, I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was one of the best guys here, most entertaining. He could do a promo. He could work. He was fantastic. And I really thought he was going to be a bigger star than he was. Vince used him for just kind of a comedy figure, and he's made a hell of a career out of it.
Right.
And lasted, got a paycheck longer than a lot of people.
Still getting one.
Still,
Right.
yeah, still. But I thought they could have pushed him more based on his talent when he got up there.
We did. Y'all sent us to. What was we would do these little public appearances at these title loan places or some shit. And K97 was going to be there. It was right down in Memphis. And you sent me and Ron. Hollywood was with us. Damn it. I'm echoing, ain't I? Oh, it's gone. Okay. Hollywood was with us, and K-Crush. So there was people, y'all had done a few of these things with other people and never really drawed a big crowd to them. So we all get there and we go into the title loan place and we kind of talk a little bit, just the guys, and kind of decide what we're going to do, and honestly, R-Truth, he had the rap gimmick, he did the rap, and we're sitting in the back and we're just going over stuff. And he's like, what do you think I should do? Just talk. We all just spitball. And we all told him, said, man, look, that's the biggest rap station in Memphis. When we go out there, if you don't go out there and do your rap, you're fucking stupid, we went out there because we were the mullets talking about poison and all this shit, and then here he comes and finally does this rap, and before it's over, we could not get out of the parking lot. It was right on one of the corners in Memphis, and it was fucking packed. When I say there was probably 200 fucking people there stopping traffic on both sides of the corner, we ended up chasing his ass out of there, and he couldn't get out. He jumped in his car and tried to speed off, and he got stuck. He couldn't get out. But a talented dude, man. But he wasn't going to rap. And me and Ron both were like, man, do this shit. Go out here and rap because this shit's pretty good, It wasn't like he was Jamie Dundee out there rapping. And man, he went out there and done that.
Right.
And those fucking people ate that shit up, man. And he was over. Then he attacked Hollywood. And that's where we jumped in and chased him off. But I swear there ended up being probably 150, 200 people right there at that place. The car people or the title loan people told us that is the most people that they had got to those. Y'all had sent other guys to do them, but it was just, I think it was just perfect being on K97. we're 80s glam rockers. We're out there talking about play some Def Leppard, some Poison, some Guns N' Roses. And we're outside. They got the van out there. And as we're doing this, at first there's nobody there, just a few people. Then 3 or 4 minutes later, you start seeing the parking lot, people coming in and stopping and the parking lot filling up. It was fucking cool, man. But he went out there and done his rap, got over like a motherfucker with it. It was fucking awesome. To me, I'm like, man, that dude has collected a fucking check. He made himself a millionaire in this business. And it's, you talk about him being a comedy role. I mean, he's good at it, man. I mean, really, he's a hell.
Yeah, I mean, we knew when he first got there, he's such a likable guy, first and foremost. He was so likable, genuine, not, some guys you meet in this business, they just come up and they want to be your buddy and they want to be all funny and they're just full of shit. But Ron was that's Ron. He is a great guy. Let me tell you a funny story. Well, not funny. Could have changed the whole scope of Ron's career. All right. I called him KK forever. Actually, funny side note on that is my youngest son, his name is Caden, and I've called him KK since he was born because of Ron. And then Ron has sent videos to him on his birthday still. On his 16th birthday, sent him videos, and we've been in touch a little bit. But he had been there about 6 or 7 months, and he came to me, and he said, look, I want you to know something. He said, I appreciate everything y'all have done. I appreciate being here. He said, but I'm about to leave. I'm like, what do you mean you're about to leave? He said, well, my contract runs out this week. This is God's honest truth. He said, my contract runs out, and I've already talked to WCW, and Eric Bischoff had called him and offered him a job, more money, and he was going to go and show up on WCW television, Nitro, that following Monday. And I'm like, man, Ron, I'm just telling you because I kind of already knew what was going on, but he didn't know, and a lot of other people didn't really know, and I didn't really know that I knew, but I'd been involved in a couple conversations that were leaning that way. So I got on the phone, and you'll know what I'm talking about in a second. I got on the phone, and normally I wouldn't do this, but I called Bruce Pritchard, and I said, Bruce, are you aware that Ron's contract is up this week? He said, absolutely no idea. I said, well, if you don't get this fixed and he don't get more money, he's going to show up on another station Monday night. Okay. They got a hold of Ron. They worked out a new deal. He decided to stay. I told him that I did this. He wasn't upset about it. He wasn't happy, but he wasn't upset about it. 2 weeks later is when McMahon walked out on WCW and bought the company. What if he'd left and went to WCW? What do you think would happen to his career?
Oh, they could probably
wouldn't have had one.
Right.
He'd probably been. So, but yeah, well, but Ron's great. He could do anything. Still does. Yeah, and always loved the music. He was always working on music. He was doing those mixtapes when he came to Memphis. I think that was his first love. He wasn't the way I remember Jett. He was a great wrestler, a great entertainer, but his first love was music. Right. So he should have been right at home right there at Kicks 96.
Yeah.
K97.
Yeah, 97. That's right.
I don't know if Kicks 96 he would have worked on that one, man. That'd have been
Well, he had a country rap that he would break out on occasion.
I haven't heard hilarious. That, man. Well, look, you mentioned Bruce Pritchard a couple times, and if I remember right, the first TV taping or so, he was the guy that was down here, I guess, kind of overseeing, making sure everything was going like they wanted to. How was your working relationship? Obviously, it was pretty good for you to be able to call Bruce and talk to him about
Bruce was always cool. Bruce, out of all the guys up there that I had to deal with, Bruce was probably the most truthful and honest out of everybody.
Wow. That's a bold statement.
It is. I mean, but it is what it is. 20-something years later, I can say that Bruce Pritchard never bullshitted me, didn't mislead me in anything, and kind of was just pretty much nuts and bolts. It is what it is. I mean, that was his saying. He loved to come to Memphis. He loved to go eat banana pudding down at the place on Bill Street. He loves chicken nuggets. Fucker ate a 20-piece chicken nugget in one sitting. But Bruce was, I had more dealings with other people than Bruce, but when I dealt with Bruce, it was always whatever he said, that's what was going to happen. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. If he told me to do something, he supported it. So, or if he gave me clearance to do something, he supported it. Others, not so much.
All right, Jett, what's your thoughts on Bruce Pritchard?
No, I fucking can't stand that prick. I just thought he was just kind of a obnoxious blowhard.
Well, look,
I don't want to sugarcoat it.
I know you didn't really.
Yeah, fuck
Bruce Pritchard. Fucking kiss ass motherfucker.
So look, Golden, let me ask you this. All right. Did shit
I ain't
change?
through cussing Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah, go ahead. You got all that off your chest?
Like, nah.
Wait.
I'm done. Go ahead.
To hell with it. I don't like Bruce either. He's an asshole.
There you go. You heard it, Bruce Pritchard. Watch my fucking show and you'll find out what people really think about your ass. Now look, guys.
Asshole.
So we hear all the horror stories about these different developmental companies and territories where these people are told one thing, sold a bill of goods, signed the deal to be a developmental territory, and then immediately shit starts changing. Did y'all have that same issue?
Absolutely.
I think they kind of left us alone for a while, right?
Yeah,
outside of the revolving trainers.
Stay there for maybe a year or so, man. We really kind of we were rolling pretty good. We were doing a lot of big shows. Unfortunately, I mean, everything was really going good right up to the end. We had a great crew. I mean, there was good guys, some good workers on there. But I mean, here's where the confusion got, or where I think us more than Ohio Valley, we got good talent.
Right.
Okay. I'm not knocking any of the talent, but we also kind of I feel like we kind of got set up in the position to where that if we don't want you, we're going to send you there to try to make you go away. Because I mean, I've really felt bad for guys. Some of the guys that I really felt bad for are like, Mean Street Posse, for example. They came in here, they could take a bump, but they couldn't really, I mean, they could have a match if you went to the back and you laid every step out, every duck, but they couldn't have a match at all. Those guys really worked hard. They really worked hard, got in phenomenal shape. And I feel I can say this with the utmost of confidence. They never, being the office, never had any intentions of ever bringing those boys back for any reason other than the same deal, because they tried to repackage themselves. It really didn't matter. Like Rodney repackaged himself and did the fur boas and all that stuff.
Right.
And he went up and did some dark matches and did the gimmick that he was working, the Rodrageous thing.
Right.
I don't know, maybe a week, 2 weeks later, Perry Saturn came out in his gimmick. I mean,
no shit.
I don't think there was any those guys, Curtis Hughes. I mean, they didn't want to do anything with him. God bless Mabel, who's a great guy. I love him to death. But I mean, they weren't going to, they sent him back home. They sent him back to Memphis to try to run him off, I feel like. And that's kind of what they did.
Yeah. There
what do you think, Jett?
Oh yeah, I agree with all that. Yeah. There were people that there were maybe about 4 people at any given time that they actually had interest in, and the rest were just kind of guys they wanted to get rid of, just kind of cast off. So like, what do we do with this guy? He's still on contract. Well, send him down there for a while. He'll get sick of that shit. You know, I don't think a lot of people probably know this, but right when this shit started, Gail Kim was supposed to come down, and she just refused. She's like, I'm not going to Memphis. Fuck that. And that was it for, and that was, I think that was it for her in WWE until she popped back up on TNA and kind of started their women's revolution. Kind of that TNA is when the women's wrestling first started getting like, hey, we're going to wrestle like the boys.
Right.
I think it was a smart move for her not to come, because honestly, at that time, I mean, Gail can fucking work. She can wrestle. So what was she really going to?
She could have wrestled. She could have wrestled Bobcat.
That's what I'm saying. What did she?
She could have.
Molly could also.
She could have dragged.
Yes. Now,
and you know, a lot of the women that came down were. It was Bobcat who couldn't wrestle at all, and I'm not sure she had much interest in it. And then Victoria, Lisa Marie, who actually became a pretty good worker. Wow.
Right.
That's one person.
Tell us how you really feel. That's a surprise. That's a surprise.
Really?
For me to hear that out of you, because I thought that was you in that leaked sex tape she had.
Yeah.
Oh.
No. She's too much like a man. That bitch. Did I say that out loud? Let me tell you. Look, all right. First off, here's my deal with Lisa Marie.
Terry's getting hot.
Here's my deal with Lisa Marie.
Joe.
Here it comes. Here it comes. Yeah. Let's go, Brandon. I'm sorry, Jett. I didn't mean to go political on you. Don't get mad. Calm down. I'm sorry. Don't get hot. Anyway, here we go.
Are you going to tell this? Are you going to tell this goddamn story or not?
Yeah, here I come. Here's the deal with Lisa Marie. Lisa Marie never wrestled a match, ever. Okay, she was a hoe. She walked out with.
She was a hoe on TV with the guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. She walked out to the ring at WWE.
People watching just think like you're calling her a hoe. Just in real life.
No, I'm not saying that she was a hoe. I'm saying that she worked as a hoe at WWE. She was an extra, and she walked out with whatever his name was as one of the hoes a couple of times.
Yeah.
Well, the real deal is her and JR hit it off. She was a fan of JR's. Okay? He picked her up and signed her to a deal because JR liked her. He saw something in her. Okay? If you remember, she came to Memphis and was there for quite a while. She couldn't lock up. Okay? She couldn't tie her shoe. She didn't know. And I'm not saying this. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful to her by any means. You'll understand my point whenever I get done.
Yeah.
But we busted our ass. We busted our ass. Guys like Rocker, Hollywood, Morton, those guys that could work their ass off, they worked with that girl non-stop to help her learn how to work. When she left, she could wrestle. She knew what she was doing. She could get by. This is where I have a beef with her at. I don't care what you see an interview of her or what she says. If anybody asks her where she learned to work at, it's OVW. Fuck her. That's my opinion of her. She didn't learn shit at OVW. She learned right there with us. She couldn't do anything. And just to like overlook that she was in Memphis because it sounds politically better for her resume to say, I was at OVW, bullshit. You never got to go to OVW because you were horrible. That's the God's honest truth. It just pisses me off that we busted our ass to help her, and she shows zero respect. Zero.
Well, you know, there's other wrestlers that do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
Nobody wants to say, for some reason, hey, they sent me to Memphis, and that's where I really learned my craft at. I don't know why, but for the last 20 years, 25 years, it's been that way. Nobody before that, everybody wanted to come through Memphis. Everybody claimed Memphis. And now it's like nobody wants to fucking claim Memphis. And like you said, they'll omit the facts just to avoid the situation, just to not say, hey, I spent some time in Memphis. I don't get it. Because, look, I'll be honest with you. To really learn how to work, I believe you need to come down here in the South. The working is different down here. Up north, they do a lot of wrestling, which we have good matches too. But man, sports entertainment was created, I believe, right here, Memphis, Tennessee. Right. I believe that's where sports entertainment came from. Jerry Lawler, Fargo, all these guys were doing sports entertainment long before it was a thing, you know. But over the past 20 years or so, it's like nobody wants to claim Memphis, and I don't really understand it. You know, what y'all's thoughts on the situation?
Go ahead, Jett.
Oh, I got nothing to say. I lost track of what we were talking about halfway through Buster's answer.
You got to pay attention, Jett.
Oh, no, Jett. God damn, Jett.
All right, here's what I'll say about that. I'll speak on that because I mean that's an interesting topic for me, and I'm gonna give credit to some people that they don't think I would probably give credit to. First and foremost, I believe that Danny Davis and Jim Cornette did a fabulous job in OVW. Okay, they did a good job. They had good talent. They had good support. They had anything and everything that they wanted. Okay. And when you look at their Mount Rushmore, okay, everybody talks about that's, the best group ever to come out of anywhere, with guys like Cena, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, Benjamin, all those guys. And they Ziggler, a lot of good guys came out of there. But as a collaboration, I don't care who it is and who wants to debate it. You can't just look at ours because you have to look at the entire Memphis developmental deal. So that would include Randy and us together. I'll put the careers of The Rock, Kurt Angle, Daniel Bryan up against any of those guys. I mean, how do you not acknowledge it? How do you not acknowledge all the guys that came from and through Memphis? Even K Crush, Ron, Killians. I mean, 20 plus years. I mean, everybody, it was a gimmick belt, but I mean, he's still in the record books. I mean, how many times has he held that hardcore championship? I mean, I understand what it is. It is what it is. But I mean, they didn't do that for him and put him in the history books because he wasn't talented. They could have done that with anybody.
One guy that I've heard acknowledge his time in Memphis, and of course it's going to be obvious when I say who it was, Bryan Danielson. I heard an interview before. It was a little while before he went to AEW, but he talked about his time in Memphis and meeting Regal in Memphis, and he even talked about. Do you remember the when he was the American Dragon? So he had the mask on.
Yep.
And at one point, he was kind of doing a goofier version of the American Dragon. And we were out at Liberty Land, which was like a little amusement park kind of thing. And I had the camera, and we were just going around making up shit with him on camera as he would interact at these different booths or rides or whatever. And we just did this stupid little video. And he mentioned the video in this interview, talked about doing it, talked about being down here in Memphis, and they even asked, and whoever was interviewing him said, "Is there footage of that thing of you out there at Liberty Land?" And he goes, "I don't know. It's probably around somewhere." He's like, "I bet David Jett has it. You'd have to ask him." So not only did he talk about Memphis, he name dropped me on the thing. Whereas most of those people. Regal put a big shout out to his time in Memphis and actually thanked both Terry and me in his book, which I thought was nice.
I think it's kind of ironic that like me and you were talking before we went on that you attended the AEW show last Saturday, and they actually got you on camera during a Bryan Danielson match.
Yeah, it was a half second. You could see me in the background when they went up on the top rope.
Well, look, talking about talent, y'all. I mean, they sent a lot of good talent down here. Y'all had the Hoss brothers, Steve Bradley. That's a guy I want to talk about with you guys. Steve Bradley. Obviously, he passed away. Been passed for a long time, but I think he was one hell of a talent. You guys actually got to work with him up close. What's your thoughts on Steve Bradley?
I agree. I agree. I mean, Steve was a great guy also, man. Great talent. Man, he's just one of those guys that they never could do anything, figure out what to do with him. They should have just brought him in and let him figure it out it'll figure itself out.
Right.
But I mean, you know,
he was the one guy that was really custom made for them.
Absolutely.
He had size, he could promo, he could wrestle.
Right.
And they just kept doing shit like cut your hair because we're thinking about doing this. And it's like they didn't have any fucking clue what they wanted to do. They just one of the things. If you're a wrestler and you're not working regularly on the main roster and they tell you cut your hair, that means they don't have a fucking clue what they're going to do with you. They're just telling you shit. Do this, cut your hair, put on jeans, and do something. They don't know.
Yeah,
that's one of their.
I just think they missed it. You know, him. I thought Bradley should have got a chance. And I'm going to miss somebody. So if anybody sees this and I miss you, I apologize. But I think Bradley should have got a chance. I think Tom Carter should have got a chance. Joey Abs probably was. I mean, I think that they could have done something big enough for Joey to make him a mega star.
Yeah, he was a big guy in shape. He could work his ass off.
I mean, his only weak point, I would say, was probably his promo, if you got to pick out a weak point. But, I mean, there's plenty of people that can talk. But, I mean, that's just guys that they I feel like that they really missed. I mean, we hadn't even mentioned the Umagas. You know, I don't think they missed anything with Mike Duck. I think they nailed that one.
Well, look, did y'all have an issue?
Just all you need is a match every night. Just put the Dups against the Kingpins.
Yeah,
every night. Main event.
That was probably one of my favorite
arena. Do I?
That was one of my favorite guys too. Was the Kingpins?
They were entertaining. They couldn't work a fucking lick and stiff as hell, but they were very entertaining.
So that's why y'all stuck them with me and Ron all the time. Huh?
Buster, were you with us tonight that we went to Steak and Shake?
Oh,
I don't think so.
There was like 15 or 20 of us at a Steak and Shake somewhere. I don't know if the Kingpins had any money or not, but we decided to buy their food. But in order for us to buy their food, they had to eat, you know, those peppers in the bottles. The full peppers in the bottles that are at Steak and Shake, they had to drink and eat the whole thing, and they did not care. They killed both bottles, and they ate. So what great guys. But for Kurt Hennig to call my office and leave a message to help the Kingpins out, one of my idols, Kurt Hennig, God rest his soul, it was worth bringing him in for that. You know, for me to do Kurt Hennig a favor, they were worth it to me.
Yeah. Well, see, I never heard that. So, Kurt Hennig basically
that's who trained them
to give them a shot. Okay.
Yeah, that's who got them in the business and got them started was Kurt Hennig.
Well, now I know who to blame.
Yeah.
Hey, they were entertaining, and I love the gimmick, the Kingpins.
Yeah,
it was a great gimmick, actually,
man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's weird because sometimes the best gimmicks are on the wrong people. If some other guys could have came up and did the Kingpin gimmick with the bowling pin and shit, they could have made a fortune off of it. But those two guys, it just didn't work for it. They weren't talented enough to pull it off. The gimmick was right. The gimmick was entertaining. You could do a lot of stuff with it. But, I mean, they couldn't do a lot of stuff.
They were in a battle royal one time at Sam's Town, and they got one of the kingpins got Lawler in the corner, and it was right on the side of the announce table, and started stiffing the fuck out of him with chops. Not because they wanted to, just because they couldn't fucking work. So he just starts stiffing him with these chops.
That's why I like him.
and I saw his face, and he's like going, fuck, like, goddamn, motherfucker. And he got away from that kingpin as quick as fucking possible. And in the rest of the match, anytime you saw either one, Lawler made sure he was 100 yards away from that kingpin.
Hated him him after that.
You know, that same match, the ball-headed kingpin, I think that's the one you're talking about, chopping him anyway. But he throws this, Lawler finally throws him over. But he hooks the top rope, hits the edge of the mat, and rolls back in. So Lawler throws him over. He thinks he's gone. Lawler turns his back to do something else. When he turns around, he sees him again. And you can see the look in Lawler's face like, did I not just get rid of his ass? And it wasn't but a second or two later, he throwed him over again. And I guess he told him that time, motherfucker, stay out. Go when you're done. I don't know, but it was fucking hilarious.
He wanted to get back in there and get some more chops in, man. He had to get his chops in.
He was avoiding.
Yeah, that's that's the only thing he could do was just chop a guy very stiff. But man, he had to get his shit in.
Yeah.
Well, look, we hear all these horror stories, Cornette especially talking about them just jerking talent away with no notice, no last minute, no heads up so you can do something to get them off of TV that makes sense. Did y'all have that issue?
I mean, not really. I mean, the only really heads up that we got was with Regal. What happened on that deal, I think it was JR called me and said, we're sending somebody to Memphis. And this is ultimately the best I can remember the way the conversation went, whether it was JR or Bruce. I don't really remember. But they said, look, we're about to send somebody to Memphis for a little bit, and I need you to do a favor. I said, okay, what's that? He said, I need you to babysit this guy and do not let anything happen. So at that point, I'm like, what the fuck? Well, who is this?
Right.
The conversation went on, and then they said, it's Steven Regal. I'm like, okay. So if you remember, and I'm not going to go into detail because I love Steve, but this is right after the plane incident with WCW, right after he got let go.
Right.
Went to whatever, got out, everything was good. They picked him up and sent him to us. And at that point, I mean, I'm like, it was laid out to me that if he screwed up, we were screwed. So ultimately, I put Regal in my house. Regal came in and lived at my house. We become very good friends. Him and Jett hit it off great. Had a lot of good times with Steve. And then I think when he went and did the Pillman show, that he was in such good shape, and he'd had such a great match, I think, with Benoit. They called right after that and said, hey, if you got anything going on with Regal, you need to wrap it up because he's coming up. So that was about. Do you remember anybody else, Jett?
No, I don't really remember having those problems. I don't even remember people being cut, not even called up. It just kind of seemed like. Now I remember the training situation was kind of a revolving door, but as far as the boys, I don't even remember when people left.
Yeah, you didn't have to deal with any of that. I don't remember a lot of them.
Until everybody was gone at the end. It didn't say, but I don't recall any kind of like, oh, we're pulling this guy or we're firing this guy or this guy's coming up and it causing problems like it did with Cornette. I don't remember.
I mean, even with Lisa Marie, we got a notification that she was coming to TV.
Yeah. Plus, if something like that came up, we're not fucking Cornette. We just deal with it instead of throwing a fucking hissy fit like some 13-year-old kid.
Yeah,
with
I
anger
think you're right. I mean, I
management
think
issues. We just go, oh, okay, well, we'll just do this on TV and that'll be it and whatever. You know, it's like not a big deal. And I mean, Cornette acted like it. They pull somebody. They go, oh man, I've been doing 13 weeks of TV with these two. He did 13 weeks of TV that was being viewed in Louisville, Kentucky by not that many people. Like, who gives a fuck? Just, it's like you're not doing WrestleMania every year. It's not like, oh, they're fucking up our WrestleMania main event. They pulled it's like, no, you're just doing a little developmental show. It's like, why make it into such a big deal? But, that's Cornette. He's,
I mean, the biggest issue, you think you're right. I think the biggest issue we had was with the trainer situation. And I don't think that they really give a crap if we had a trainer. They just wanted the boys, at the end of the day, they wanted the boys to be working. They wanted them working as many nights a week as they could. And we were working a legitimate 4 nights a week. And, I think our first deal was with Jim Neidhart. I mean, everybody knows how that went. I mean, Jim's a great guy, but he didn't want to be a trainer. He didn't even want to be there. So who was second? I think it was it Tracy?
Tracy may have been. I can't remember the order of Regal and Tracy, because Regal was kind of the de facto trainer when. Yeah,
but I think Regal was there when Tracy was there.
Yeah, but I know at some point he was kind of the trainer. He was. He was the guy that like Bryan Danielson and
the wrestlers wanted to talk to.
Brian Kendrick, like the guys that were actually there to learn and to work, loved having Regal there because and he would train them. Tracy, I think, was probably too much one of the boys to be an effective trainer to a large group of people. Maybe if it was just one person that he was dealing with, he probably could have been an excellent trainer, but dealing with a whole bunch of guys, I don't think he had the kind of the authority side of him.
Yeah,
where, like he was kind of too much one of the boys.
Yeah, Tracy, that's exactly what happened. I mean,
I loved Tracy Smothers. I loved him being down here. One of the funniest men on the planet, and I still, to this day, to people that aren't wrestling fans, say Tracy Smothers shit to them. Like, don't get hot. I got that from Tracy.
Right.
I say that to people all the time. Like at my current job, somebody will like say something like, "Hey, don't get hot." I do that one, and one of the funniest ones. It's an old thing, but we were at some small show and somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and it wasn't a good crowd. And afterwards, Tracy is walking around and he's running this joke into the ground for 20 minutes. And the more he'd do it, the more I'd laugh. But it was like every time you get a bad house, the promoter always has an excuse for why there wasn't. Oh man, the weather was up, it was raining. Whereas, really the main reason for any small crowd is you brought in a show nobody wanted to see, or nobody was aware of, or it didn't get promoted. But promoters would blame it on anything. Oh, it was raining that day. There was football's real big in this town. And the high school had a football game. You can't compete with that. So Tracy would start out with that. And after about 20 minutes, then he'd go, man, they got a McDonald's right down the road. They got that fucking Big Mac. Man, how are you going to compete with that? What are you going to do?
Man, I'm going to tell you, I love Tracy Smothers. But I'm going to make this public right now. But I really pushed to get Bull to be our trainer after Neidhart. I talked to the office a dozen times, and I don't know what the deal was. They just wouldn't do it. But that's when Tracy got the job, and you nailed it, Jett. He and I had some heated arguments. He was really hot at me at the end. And that was exactly it. He got down here and he was working out with all these guys. Regal was here, and you're right, all the wrestling guys wanted to be with Regal, like Brian and those guys, Shooter, those guys like that. They wanted to be around Regal, and why would you not? But Tracy was trying to help people with promos, and that's when we were doing all those, watching all that tag team videos and stuff from training. But Tracy, man, he got in great shape because he was working out so much. And I would literally have arguments with him because he wanted to be booked on the show. He wanted to be on TV and he wanted to wrestle. And it's hard to tell Tracy Smothers, man, you're not here to be a wrestler.
Right.
No, we'd put him in matches and stuff with guys that needed to learn stuff. And he's great. But then it would turn into he wanted to be, more involved and stuff like that. And it just, that's not the reason Tracy left. But then, there was another reason Tracy left, and it's irrelevant. But anyway, then we got Bobby Eaton. My God, how could you ask for anything better than Bobby, except for the state that Bobby was in? God rest him so. I love Bobby to death too. Went to his funeral, miss him, love him to death. But I mean, what we didn't get beautiful Bobby Eaton. We got a broken Bobby Eaton.
Right.
And unfortunately, that was when Randy and the Power Pro deal came back into the equation. And Bobby was under contract with us. Power Pro wasn't under contract at all. And he was staying with Randy. And then it just, he was just getting fed crap. And do you remember the show in Jonesboro, Arkansas?
Did Terry just freeze up? Oh, there he is.
Did you remember the show in Jonesboro, Arkansas, where Bobby got some out at me? He come up to me and said, "Fuck you, Golden." But it was, and he left the show in the middle of the show. But we had a lot of guys leave for different reasons. That we had 3 people leave one time. I mean, not so much Jett, but more so me. I got blamed because they got fired. Okay. But we got drug tested. Everybody. I found out 30 minutes before that the doctor was going to be at our training facility, and anybody that was under contract had to be there. Anybody and everybody had to be there.
Right.
Well, 3 people failed their drug test for something I'm not even going to talk about. They got let go. That's not my fault. I didn't do it with you. I didn't do it for you.
Right.
That's not my fault. Another guy got fired because he didn't go to the show. He didn't want to drive to Mississippi. We had a show way down in Mississippi. He didn't want to go. He got fired because he didn't go to the show. He didn't think that these shows were as important because he had been a big star. He got let go. Right. It's a lot of it was just looking for reasons to get rid of people, but I think they missed on a lot of guys, but it is what it is.
Well, look, let's talk about. Go ahead, Jett.
Let's talk about wrapping this up. We've been going like an hour 45.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Look, I got a couple more questions I want to get out.
God damn, Buster.
Damn it, man. You've been talking the whole show, Jett.
We'll do rapid fire. Go.
Look, all right, the very first developmental deal, the contract, how many years was it for?
I think it was 2 years with 2-year extensions.
Okay, so how long did y'all actually stay under contract with them as Memphis Championship Wrestling?
2 years.
I think we
3 years, 3 into 3.
Yeah, it was a little. Well, we stayed open 3. Right. They paid longer.
Okay, that brings me to the $1 million question that I've had several people ask me after the last show. You missed the most important question. And I'm like, what the fuck is the most important question? They said, you didn't ask him how much. So I'm going to ask you, how much money did you make off of it?
Go ahead, Jett.
Well, Jett didn't get no cars now.
I didn't have a contract with WWE, man.
It fluctuated, to be honest with you. It changed.
Enough to make it worthwhile is kind of.
Yeah, it was very worthwhile.
But not that anybody going to become a millionaire off of it. It's enough to make it worthwhile is what they paid on contracts to Developmental, to the people running Developmental. But it wasn't going to change anybody's life.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. You had talent come here that made $500 a week.
Right.
Okay. You had some guys that made $750. Okay, and you had a couple that were under somewhat form of a small contract. We're talking maybe $1,000 a week. Okay, that's what you had. You think about this. Most all these guys, besides like the kids from Sean's and all, they had real lives. They had homes or apartments or something somewhere else. They had to move to Memphis. All of them were living in an apartment. They had to pay bills. It was tough, man. Everybody thought those guys under contracts got it made because they got a guaranteed check. It's probably harder on them than the guys working that weren't under contract because every dime they got, they had to spend on living. So
yeah, I remember Reckless Youth. We were getting. I want to say we were in Earl, Arkansas, maybe, and he was in negotiation. They were renegotiating with him on his developmental deal, and I think he said he was already making $750 a week, and. But they offered him, I want to say he said they offered to up it to $1,000, but there was some issue that with his family life or something. And at the end of the day, he didn't re-sign is the way I understood it with them. They wanted him.
He hated being down here. He hated not necessarily being down with MCW. He hated the South. And he hated
he hated Southern wrestling.
And he hated Southern wrestling. He hated everything down here. He was from Jersey, I think, right?
Yeah.
Or at least that's where he wrestled a lot.
I think so.
And he missed being up there so much. And he had, he just didn't like the South. He just thought the South was a lot of, hey, man, what you going, bing, bong, dings, right? That kind of thing, which, obviously it is. I'm from Chicago. Picture this guy from Jersey, all that kind of stuff up there has to come down and see somebody like Buster down here with the go down. He was like, I can't take this shit. I'm going back.
Gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I don't know what's going on with this Deliverance motherfucker.
Really, me and Rod killing him with y'all and shit like that, man.
Yeah.
Look,
man, did you eat that possum last night?
Look, I got one last question, and we're gonna wrap this thing up. All right, last time we were talking, you pretty much started the show with talking about KAW going into MCW and the start of it, and you said it yourself. You said, it really kind of ended pretty bitter for us. Kind of take us through that. What was the situation that finally ended Memphis Championship Wrestling?
You want me to give the quick answer?
Go ahead, Jett.
2 things ended Memphis Championship Wrestling. The turmoil with the trainers, which they're picking them, right? We're not going, hey, send us this guy to be a trainer. Outside of Rico. But, I mean, there was a lot of turmoil with the trainers. It seemed like they was constantly turning over. Second thing was the turmoil with Jerry Lawler and shit he was doing or causing or whatever. And at some point, they just went, this shit ain't worth it. There's just too much trouble. And it was like, fuck it. Is that fairly accurate, Terry, from where you sit?
I mean, in a nutshell, yeah, I can elaborate a little bit on it. The trainer deal was what it was. I mean, like I said, we got a bad version of Bobby.
Right.
God rest him. I mean, but great guy. We got a bad version. And then all the drama with Jerry, he went up when they were going to fire Kat, was because of the actions. And I believe was because of the actions and the things that she was doing down here with the developmental deal and the talent. It got back to word to JR. They let her go. Jerry went in, and everybody knows the story. He went in to defend her and give the ultimatum: if she goes, I go. and he got told goodbye. After that happened, I got a call that night and said, hey, we don't want Jerry on the television with our talent moving forward. If you've got anything taped, you can use it if you need to or if you have to, but we don't want him involved.
Right.
And we had a choice to make right there. You know, we've already invested all this time and walked away from our original product. And here we are. So we had a choice to make, but we really didn't have a choice. It was either act like we're buddies with Jerry and which he wouldn't have put us out if we were on fire, or continue on. We tried to continue on. At that point, he went on all his interviews and stuff and blamed me for what happened to him and Stacy, and that's the furthest from the truth. I had nothing. Right. I wish I had that much power. Shit, come on. I appreciate him saying that, but I think the three of us and anybody else that with enough sense to know that I don't think I had enough power or any power to get Jerry Lawler fired from WWE.
Right.
He was constantly, and when that happened,
Golden doesn't have the power to do it because Lawler's the one with all the stroke.
Right. JR was and you're right. JR was over the talent at the time. He was over developmental. So do you think JR was my friend or his friend? He wasn't mine. So
right.
And when that happened, Jerry he wasn't on Power Pro at the time, and he couldn't be on us. So there again, what happened? He's off Memphis television. So what does he do? He calls and calls and calls and calls the office. He calls JR. He does this. He just sabotaged everything and anything that he could. At one point I went up to New York and Bruce and I went to. They have storage facilities up there that are just full of like memorabilia. Vince's old motorcycle that he wrecked was there, like tons of all the stuff that they use now for their WrestleMania exhibits and stuff. Like 90% of it's in a storage building. So they took me up there and said, hey, if there's anything in here you want, tell us. So we picked out tons of stuff, sent rings down, whatever. They sent us all kind of lighting, rings, signs, just anything that we could use that would help our product. Well, I talked to Bruce at one point and said, look, man, this was the Andre the Giant rings, okay?
Right.
Big 22 by 22s, hard as concrete, all right? We had gotten the new WCW. They sent us WCW rings. So I called and said, hey, what do you want us to do with these, this Andre the Giant ring? We called it. And they said, do whatever you want to with it. I said, well, look, can we, because we wanted a few things for the facility. I said, can we just sell it? You care if we sell it and reinvest the money into stuff for the school or talent or whatever? Go for it. They didn't care. So I put it up for sale at that little shop there in town that sold memorabilia. Jerry took pictures of it and sent it to the office. Shit like that he would do, But at the end of the day.
By the way, when we had that Andre ring, when we first got it in, it was at the training facility. Derek King stopped by, and he got up in the ring, and he didn't know it was an Andre the Giant ring, which is just like super reinforced and hard as shit. And I said, Derek, take a bump in the ring. He's like, why? I'm like, dude, just take a bump. So Derek King takes a bump, and I think he died for about 5 minutes. He just laid there going, okay. Yeah, well, you can go proceed, Jerry.
Them old WWF rings at that time were hard. They were harder than any other working ring. I liked them. They were solid floors, solid bumps, but they were hard compared to the rings we work in and the WCW rings. They were more like the Southern rings we work in, but they were good working rings. Now the one thing that the biggest difference was the real ropes. Instead of cables, you know, all WWF rings had the real ropes. And man, they just continued, you know, just stretching. When you'd hit them, you could tighten them, but after a show, they'd be loose again some. You'd have to tighten them because that real rope constantly stretches.
Right.
Well, look, I got one more question for you.
Oh,
Ted.
Jesus Christ.
One more. This is a short one.
You're killing me.
We've been going 1 hour and 54 minutes.
Is this a Jerry Lewis telethon?
It might be. We need to start taking donations, man. Get me paid around this motherfucker. If I could start getting paid, maybe y'all could get paid for appearances. Who knows?
Hey, I want to say something first. I saw Stoney McGraw on here earlier, right? The pencil dude.
Right.
One of my favorites. And he said one time I paid him $40. One time he said it was greener than shit, and he was. But he had a good gimmick. He needs to send me my $40 back. He wasn't worth it.
Damn. Well, look, man.
Stiff.
I feel like you got the itch a little bit, man. You got any inclination of doing this thing all over again?
Who are you talking to?
Who are you to?
You're starting another company, man.
Hell no. Not even a little bit. I don't have you got that wrong. I have zero itch. Zero itch. Look, I tell you what, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've talked to more wrestling in the last 30 days than I've talked in the last 15 years, probably.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I am truly excited and humbled to see the impact that KAW really had on a lot of people. I'm proud of the work that we did with MCW, but it's not even, I'll be honest with you. I was going to contact you before we did this show and said, you know what, man, the KAW show's tomorrow night. Why don't we just put this MCW thing off and just plug the crap out of that show? I really felt like that's probably what we should have done, but it's your show and I'm working for you tonight. So I want my $40. Anyway.
Stone, you hear that? Cash out, Ted. Go.
No $40, man. Hot dogs.
To see hot dogs and hear all the little promos and the venue, the stuff that the guys are coming out of the woodwork who are still talking about KAW, it blows my mind. And you know what? There's nobody rooting for those guys more than me. I hope that it's successful. I hope they have a good turnout. And I'll say this on the record. If they do, and they pull this off on the 3rd, I really feel like that in order to do a real KAW deal, you got to have it in Memphis.
Right.
Nothing against Jackson, but it's got to be in Memphis. And if that happens and we can pull that off, I myself will pay to bring anybody and everyone that worked at KAW into the show. I will pay their expenses, put them up, feed them, and we will have one hell of a one-night reunion.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's got to be in Memphis for sure, preferably at the Daisy. Now, we talked about it last night. I don't think the Daisy's really available right now. I don't know what they're doing with it, but
yeah, I don't even think it's open for anything. I saw a little bit of last night's show, and I saw Alki. Is he like in a retirement community? Like, is he like in the old folks home? Because he's got his little fucking rocking chair with a blanket behind it. I expected halfway through the thing for a nurse to come out and fucking feed him applesauce right in the middle of the podcast.
Oh, he's living a life, man. He's making that cornhole money, man. See, that's what we all should have done. We should have did the cornhole, man.
Cornhole has two meanings. You know that.
I mean, we can do kick-ass cornhole.
I told him
you going to bring in Jasmine St. Clair for that one?
There you go, man.
She can be aboard.
I told him last night I see a kick-ass wrestling cornhole match in our future. And I told him, I said, well, maybe we'll wait and see if we'll do that at a prison show or something. You know?
Right.
Yeah, any other kind of hillbilly shit you can bring in here for that too, like possum kicking or some kind of date shop.
Don't make me go out in my yard, man. I got a bunch of fucking stray cats. I don't hate cats. I don't hate no animal, but I'm a dog dude. I'm like, Terry, I'm not any grown man who owns a fucking cat's fucking weird. I'm just gonna say it right here, right fucking now. Jett, you own a fucking cat, don't you?
No, I do not own a cat, but I have no problem with cats.
Well, I don't either, but a dude, if you're
Are
a
you
dude
scared of cats? Are you scared of cats?
No,
I hate
cat.
cats.
Look, dogs fucking love you. Cat don't give a fuck about you. As long as you feed it and water it, that motherfucker don't care whether you even come home.
I agree.
I'm the only dog in my house.
I'm on the cat side. I don't give a fuck about you either, man.
So hey, let me ask you a prediction. What do you think will happen with this KAW show tomorrow? Do you think it's going to be just a wrestling show, or is it going to be? Do you think that like when we did our Daisy shows, they weren't just like wrestling shows. They were like, there was entertainment in the show.
Right.
I'm worried if they just do a wrestling show and just work stiff, I don't think that's going to be enough. They're going to have to do some skit work. They're going to have to do some entertainment stuff that's going to get that shock value. I don't think they can do the stuff that we did, but there's still a lot of stuff they can do. And I just hope that Johnny and them are on pace with creating some entertainment spots in the show that aren't necessarily wrestling like we used to do. And they got to get that shock value. They got to get that viral video for this area, in order to make this thing work.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. I hope it does great. I'm actually gonna go tomorrow night. I ain't doing nothing. I'm gonna sit at a fucking table, I guess. I don't know, but I'm going because I want to see.
What do you mean you're gonna sit at the table? What does that mean?
Well, I got some shirts. I'm finna try to sell some gimmicks, motherfucker.
Oh, okay.
Shirts
Right.
I'm gonna sell.
Look, you're gonna be at the merch table. Okay.
Right. I may even put the fucking hood on if I can get the old lady to sew it up between 9 tomorrow.
If you don't put the hood on, you ain't selling nothing.
There you go, man.
Does your old lady put a hood on too?
Hey, actually, we
like when you guys do it. Are you both masked?
Stop, Jett.
Some kind of like some weird lucha libre.
Usually, it's just me that's masked, man. She likes it when I wear the mask, dude. I don't know what it is about it. I guess it's the Hellraiser coming out in me. I don't know.
Have you ever put her through a table?
Dude, I put her through everything there is to put her through, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, do you remember the time you and I were going to Dyersburg and we were like late because we were at some other establishment too long and we were wasted, but we had a bottle of Crown Royal in the car? Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember that very well.
He was driving, which doesn't happen. Okay. And I'm going to tell off on myself, but we were probably doing 100 in this little Lexus that I had. We passed a state trooper rolling, all right? We got all this beer and all this whiskey. We knew we were dead. We knew we were going to jail. We were both gone, but we were still going. So what do? I roll the window down and start hoofing all this beer and this Crown Royal out the window. And me and Jett, we slow down. We're trying to find, doing the old penny gimmick, putting whatever in our mouth, got any gum, whatever. Fucker never turned around.
Damn.
We just threw all that shit out the window.
Hey, I've done that with weed, but never with alcohol, man. So I feel you on that, dude. I feel you.
Then we got to the show. Walked in the dressing room. I cut a fucking promo on every wrestler in the back, dogged all of them out. Terry ran out, hit some motherfucker with the stiffest chair shot on the planet. The guy may have died that night, is a strong possibility.
There was a few of those.
And then we fucking got back in the car and rolled on back to Memphis and continued to drink.
Yeah. Those were the days.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to tell y'all how much I appreciate y'all for coming on here and doing this for me. I love these shows, man. I've had a blast. The first one flew by. This one's actually a little longer, and it's flown by. Like I said, I could never thank you guys enough for coming on. And, I hope this thing does get to the third show, Terry. I'll be honest with you. I want to see it in Memphis. I want to see. Look, PKAW is kind of cool. I'll be honest with you. Adding the pure in front of the KAW, I like it. But I'm like you. They got to jumpstart it. they got to have some entertainment. It's got to be a full package, you know, and I think they're going to do all, man. I'm looking tomorrow. I'm hoping they have a hell of a crowd, hell of a turnout, and that'll take us to the next one, you know, and then if it's good, on to the next one. This is all the shit you created.
I'm going to be in Jackson tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be there or not. It just depends, but I'm considering coming by. I don't know. Hopefully so. I hadn't seen you in 25 years, so it'll be good to see you. Right,
man. And hey, this is your creation, dude. Living on. It's got a chance for a new life, a new identity to evolve. It's got to be cool, man. KAW we talked about it last night, was about what? Actually 2.5, 3 years at the most. And people still talking about it 23, 24 years later, man. Really cool.
I mean, the one thing that I'm probably the most proud of is the loyalty from the crew. To this day, I don't think there's probably anybody that was on that crew, you know, the mainstay guys that I couldn't call, or you couldn't call, or Jett couldn't call, and they'd be there for us. But I mean, that's hard to find. Hard to find.
All right, David Jett, you got any last thing you want to say? You need to plug anything or anything? You want to dog me out some more on my own podcast?
No, I think I did that enough. But I think I pretty much. You got to wrap up this podcast so we can go smoke a pound of fucking weed.
Oh, you know, that's straight where I'm headed as soon as we get off. I smoked before the show, after the show. Hey, look, the only reason I didn't smoke during the show is just out of respect for you guys, man. I would have smoked during the show.
I want to promote one thing before we get off here.
Go for it, man.
I want to promote David Jett's short story videos with him and Jasmine St. Clair in the back of the truck.
You're going to have to release all those.
It's called Feet with Jasmine.
There you go, man. Hey, we need to see it, man.
You don't remember the night Riggle was in the truck and he said,
fucking ugliest
"Get your bloody feet off me, you cow's cunt."
Damn. Yeah. Lord Jesus.
Yeah. He said, "I'd rather cut my eyelids off and dump them in hot soapy water than touch your feet."
Yes. Yeah, that was definitely Regal.
Yes, no doubt. Buster, anytime, man. Anytime you need me, I'm here.
Dude, I appreciate it. I'll get with you guys about what we talked about before we went on the air. Maybe we can make it happen. And, dude, I've enjoyed it. Like I said, it's been my pleasure, both of you guys. Terry, I'm going to pull you out first.
God bless you.
Brother. Yes, sir. You have a good night.
Yes, sir.
Terry.
All right, Jett, you're a little late on that, dude. The same thing for you, man. I appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate both of you guys giving me your time. It's been real cool. I've enjoyed it. Dude, you take it easy. You have a good night, my man.
You too, man. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. All right, guys. You seen it right there. MCW, Terry Golden and David Jett. Zero fucks given. That one's done. It's one of the shows I've been looking forward to. I appreciate those guys for doing this for me. It means a whole lot to me. Y'all know I got some shit I got to plug right quick. So let me get on here and let's get this shit done. Let's plug some stuff. All right, look, guys. This one here, Sunday, November the 5th, 7 p.m. Izzy High, Wrestling with Weed, the podcast. We're back. This is a don't miss show. Get your buddies, get your buds, get your favorite smoking apparatus, and join me and Izzy High November 5th on a Sunday at 7 p.m. for Big Buster's smoke session. You'll love it, man. Let's smoke, let's talk, let's smoke, and let's have a good time. All right, guys, I got another show I want to talk about that's this Friday night in Bradford, Tennessee. Let me pull it up right here. It's Premier Pro Wrestling. These guys, they run one of the absolute best shows in the whole territory. You do not want to miss this show. It's a benefit for a young lady. It's for a good cause. Look at the talent. You got Jason Genesis. You got Markel Harris. You got the $1 Million Baby. She's going to get a chance to get her Premier Pro Women's title back. This is Friday night. This Friday night, Bradford, Tennessee at the Bradford High School. Do not miss this show. It's for a good cause, and you're going to see one hell of a night of pro wrestling action. All right, guys. I have, let me see what I got going here. Okay. All right, guys, I guess that's it. I thought I had one more thing to plug. I do. I tell you what, before we get out of here, this Thursday night, Slide and Ride Rodeo Arena. Tomorrow night, Jackson, Tennessee, the big KAW reunion tour kicks off. Bell time 8 p.m. Let's see what Johnny Morton's got to say about it.
Wrestling fans, we're 1 week away from the biggest event to hit Jackson, Tennessee in 2023. I'm talking about PKAW bringing the KAW Wrestle Reunion Tour to the Slide and Ride Rodeo Arena right there in Jackson, Tennessee, October the 26th. Let me tell you something, bell time's 8 p.m. Get you a cold one, sit back and enjoy the most extreme wrestling action you're ever going to see right here in Jackson, Tennessee, October the 26th, Slide and Ride Rodeo. Be there.
All right, guys, that's tomorrow night. Like I said, come on out. It's an all-adult show, 21 and up. You can drink, you can cuss, you can have a killer fucking time. Do not miss PKAW Entertainment presents KAW Reunion Tour, the very first show tomorrow night, bell time 8 p.m. I appreciate everybody who watched. I appreciate everybody who's interacted with us. Until next Sunday, y'all take it easy and have a good night.